So hi everyone and welcome back to Magic Maree and Jasper, and today, as I promised, I've got two very, very special people that we're having a chat with, and it's literally going to be a really beautiful casual chat, but we're going to go just a little bit more deeply into health and what's actually going on out there and what health's about. So first person that I'd love to introduce is my actual personal hero, is my very good friend Jane. And Jane is going to tell us her amazing story of her health retrieval. I think we could put it that way. I'll let Jane explain it to you. And then, of course, my other beautiful person here tonight is Tracey Meads. And Tracey also has had some health issues in her life that she's done incredible, miraculous work with, and is now also working on that health aspect through Ayurvedic medicine and helping people to understand burnout and how to avoid it. So we're going to see how this all ties in together. And if you've got any questions at all, please just put them in the comments below, because we can do this a few times, because when people start to realize how amazing our body is, how amazing our soul is for self-healing, I think it's actually going to be quite mind-blowing. So, but firstly, Jane, I'd really love you to say hi and just to start telling everyone, who are you and how did you get here?
So, thank you for that beautiful introduction, by the way, and love you to death. Maree, I got here, actually you were part of my journey all the way through this, and thank God for you. You just always held my hand and always called upon me and made sure I was okay, and you've just been a really big rock for me, and I love you. So thank you so much, sweetheart. But my journey started about a year ago, actually. It was in June last year, when I found a little lump under my left underarm and felt into it, and I was like, no, it's fine. I really didn't want to know about it at all. And it kept getting bigger and bigger, and I just ignored it because that's the way I wanted to deal with it. And I honestly didn't feel that there was any issue with it. I just thought, no, it's a lump, you know, it'll go. But unfortunately, then my breast started to get really sore and swollen, and the pain was just incredible. I couldn't even put a seatbelt on. It was just so inflamed and sore, and never felt pain like it, actually.
So Jane, how long did that take from when you first felt
Not
the
long.
lump? Like we're talking days, weeks, months?
Maybe weeks.
Weeks?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not long.
Maybe weeks, yeah. And then I thought, okay, I can't touch my breast. I've got an infection. So I'm saying to myself, I've got an infection in my breast. I'm going to see the doctor and ask for some antibiotics. So off I go and see this doctor, just a random doctor, and told her that I need antibiotics for my breast. And she said, oh, do you mind if I do a feel and everything? And she said, Jane, you need more than antibiotics. You've got a few lumps in your breast, and we need to get this sorted out. So within the week, a week's period, I had my mammogram, followed straight up by an FNA and a biopsy, and then went back to the doctor, and the doctor told me that it was cancer.
So Jane, sorry, what's an FNA?
Fine needle aspiration of the lymph node that was swollen, yeah. So when that came back positive, that just, my whole life turned upside down from that point onwards. And
so what was the first thing that you experienced? Like when you got that news, how did you feel? Like what happened for you?
I was just shocked. Like you can't even comprehend it.
Yeah.
Because the first thing I did was think, oh shit, I'm not having chemotherapy. And I have a reason for why I thought that. And I thought, well, I'm not having chemotherapy. What am I going to do with this? What I will do is just go and see a surgeon and get them to take the tumour out. But I won't let them, so I had all these rules in place. I won't let them touch my lymph nodes, and I will not allow them to take away my breasts. So that was, in my heart, I knew I didn't have to do that. And because I've always had a spiritual life and thought processes, when I felt into my heart, I just knew I did not have to go down that line and not to get them touched.
So Jane, that was all happening. You had the shock, and then you're going into what can I do, and
Then grief set in.
And I was just going to say, yeah. And how was your partner, and how was everyone around you?
I would not have got through the grief period without my husband James, because he went in and he had to listen to me sobbing every day, downloading, getting all my grief out, plus stay strong when he's going through his own stuff of, gosh, you know. So he pushed that all aside. I told him I'm not having chemo or anything. He went into research mode. So for the first 6 months, while I was trying to it took me 6 months to get through the grief stages. Like, I found myself going through all the grief stages, and he was just constantly researching, you know, all medical documents and anything that they've done, you know, tests on alternative ways that I could have a look at this, because he knew that was the only way I would go through this. And then I had the aspect of my children who did not understand why I would take an alternative route. And that was devastating. It was devastating to watch them go through their grief, their fear around how I was feeling and thinking about treating myself. And it was just extremely stressful to watch your children go through that. If there was anything I didn't want to do, was tell them, you know, because I knew it was going to change their life forever. So, yeah, that's what happened with that.
Yeah, so that was all happening virtually within a month, literally, of you finding it.
Yeah.
So,
one of the very first things I did was we've got a friend, a mutual friend, and I've also got another very close friend of mine who have both cured their cancers naturally.
Which is beautiful.
Which is amazing. And I've heard their stories all the time, and straight away it clicked into my head, give her a call and find out what she did. And I knew diet played a massive role in this. So within that week's period, I had already contacted her, and she told me about this particular person who does a program. So I got online, ordered the program from the US, started my raw plant-based diet immediately.
Yeah.
Like, that was really difficult for me.
Yeah, how did it feel? Like, you know, you can go out for dinner and lunch and eat what you want. And how was that transition?
I just struggled. I've only just got over it. It's been a year.
A year.
It's taken me that long, but I just couldn't say. I'd be over the sink gagging, you know, every time I was having
Actually,
this.
I remember now,
It's
you weren't big into vegetables.
No, never ate vegetables.
I forgot about that. Okay.
Never ate vegetables. Never did any self-care.
Okay, right.
So it was like, it was just crazy. You know, I was like 22, 23 kilos heavier than what I am now at that time as well. And I would just look at these supplements and these bloody juices and the raw food and just cry, because I just hated it. I just hated every moment of it, and think, oh, this is going to be the rest of it. Oh, it was just horrific. I hated it. And so that's what I did. But within a few weeks, I noticed a 40% reduction in my breast inflammation.
Wow. So you're saying that the actual lumps and the hardness went down?
The pain disappeared by about 40% of the pain, the redness, the swelling.
And that was just from changing
from
to a raw food
Yeah,
and
just from
your
raw
juices and some supplements that were supporting you at that time.
That's exactly right.
So, and
6 weeks later, I was 100% pain-free.
Oh, wow.
And I'm still at this stage on nothing else but these juices, because I went through a stage where I went to see a surgeon because I wanted to have this removed. Anyway, I ended up with this breast surgeon that was very unkind when I mentioned that I wasn't going to have chemotherapy. And it was a terrible experience for me. It devastated me, and I thought, I'm never going back to see these people again. What am I going to do now? And then James was back onto the research, and it was only through that in the United States and all around the world, there's so many places that have integrative doctors. And I thought, and I'd never heard of them before. I mean, you know, we've all been in the medical industry, and I never heard of them. And I thought, oh, I wish there was one in Australia. And I thought, oh, bugger it, I'll get online and Google this. And when I did, there was one at Rabina. And I thought, great.
And Rabina wasn't too far from you,
No.
and they were available, and you could get in. And
yeah.
So that was like your first step to getting support from someone that had medical background.
Yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't see the actual doctor for a month. That was how long you had to go through this whole process. And so I saw the naturopaths who put me on some supplements and did some extensive gene testing and hormone testing, because the breast cancer is hormone positive it's ER positive, PR positive and HER2 negative, which is estrogen positive and progesterone positive.
Is that common? Is that like, do you know?
Yeah, it's just very common type of breast cancer.
Okay.
Which means you then have to block your hormones.
Yep.
Which was a whole other deal in itself, to block your hormones, and what that does to your mind and body is just a whole other journey. Yeah,
So what happened for you? What was it that you've noticed? That
my hair started falling out.
Right. Okay.
So that was the only prescription medication I took.
Yep.
And my bones, it got to a stage a few months ago where I couldn't even walk.
Is that because you had pain?
The pain in my bones were incredible.
Is it all over your body, or was it just
all
your
over.
feet, or was it was
I
all
couldn't walk
over?
on my feet without limping. The pain, it would just ache all night long in bed, and it was just like everything was painful in my bones.
So what made you realise that it was actually from the hormone blockers? Was it?
Well, I had a look at the side effects. Yep. Up until that stage, I didn't have a look at the side effects, and that was one of the side effects of taking it. So I made a decision at that point to come off them. I thought, I'm not living my life like this. This is rubbish. I believe there must be, because my belief now in plant medicine, I thought there must be an equivalent of a gentler way of this. And I don't believe the universe would put us in this situation where we had to take these things and then be in agony to heal ourselves. I thought, this doesn't make sense. That's not...
So that was your intuition guiding you basically to, well, what's my next step?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I swapped them over for natural things, and my hair started growing back. I've got little wispy bits all under here growing back again, and then my bone pain just all went.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, and then I got my life back again. It was horrendous. I just thought, I can't live life like this.
That's amazing, isn't it?
That's
crazy. And so were you worried at all that, you know, your body would respond negatively to not having those hormone blockers?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. But when I listened to my heart, and it was like, nah, that's what I'm worried about isn't true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Follow my gut instinct on this, and then so that brought me onto researching that aspect of it, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So sitting there right now today, so how are you feeling? Where are you at?
Well, sitting here right here today, I have never felt better in my entire life. I can say my entire life. I've never. I actually took my grandson out the other morning with my kids as well, and we got on one of those little train things at the park that goes around and around, and for the first time in as long as I can remember, and it was quite a big track as well, I was just bolting with him.
Wow.
Yeah, just running with him the whole way twice, and my daughter got exhausted, and then I did it another time with my son, and I thought, wow, I just can't believe how good I feel.
So you've got a lot more vitality back.
Much more.
Feeling younger. You're looking amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
And
it's changed my entire life.
And what about the cancer? Where are you at with that?
So where I'm at with the cancer is I did see another. I got to a point actually that Tracy triggered something amazing off in me. We had was it Christmas that we got together, and I was having that. Yeah. So. Get to your place at Christmas time, and everyone's in these deep and meaningful conversations, and I sat down and Tracy asked how I was going. And I was very down at that stage because I had a period of time where I stopped doing my treatments properly because the place I was going to hired me as to do some management there. And I went straight back into management mode, and I just neglected myself. Just let it go. I was just like, oh, that's okay. That's going to be, I'll take those pills whenever I want to. I'll drink my juice when, and the whole thing. And I just got into mass stress state.
So it was really emotionally you were getting off balance from it.
I just went straight back to how my life used to be.
Wow.
Exactly. I just sort of went, that doesn't exist. Straight back into, how do I manage this? Let's run this business. Let's do this. Got to get the team together. Got to get this happening. And I was just like working longer and longer and longer hours. And I just thought, oh, this isn't great. And luckily my boss picked up on it as well at the time and decided that parting ways would be a better thing. So it was the best thing that he did for me. And then straight after that, I was due for my next lot of 3 monthly tests, and my tumour had grown.
Wow.
And in that period of time that I was working, and not only did it grow, it went from a couple of lymph nodes to 7 lymph nodes.
How did you feel when you got that news?
I was devastated.
Yeah.
And I just got that news and rocked up at your place.
Yeah.
And was it New Year's Eve, maybe?
No, it was Christmas.
Was it? Yeah. So I sat down and I was talking to Trace about it, and Trace was really hitting the hard questions down at me. It was like bang, bang, and I was like, oh my God. But it was just perfect. It wasn't perfect at the time for me, but it was perfect because she got me to a point where it broke me down. And in that breakdown was where I knew I was no longer emotionally balanced.
Yeah.
And this whole cancer thing just knocked the crap out of me. And it was then one of our other beautiful girlfriends at the table turned around and said, Jane, can I suggest you go see a quantum healer to deal with your emotions? And because I was speaking about I wanted to see a psychologist. I'd already made a decision I think that's how the conversation started with you. And so as soon as Trace said that, I thought, right, well, by the time I got in the car, I'd already Googled the thing because she was going to let me know. But but I thought, I'm not waiting, I'm going to get on top of this. But I found a quantum healer who's also a psychologist, so it was perfect for me.
Okay.
I had 5 sessions with her.
So can I ask,
Yes.
did you end up doing like the quantum hypnosis, or did you
No, I went for the hypnosis, but I went to psychology. When I sat down and spoke to her, she said, no, you need psychology, Jane. You need to recognise your patterns. And that was a game changer for me at that time. Yeah, to recognise my patterns.
So what was it, that actually changed for you?
Everything.
Everything?
Yeah, everything to do emotionally.
Yes.
Because my emotions, I finally got to a place where I could balance my emotions out. So if something was happening, I wasn't getting triggered anymore. I'd go, I can see the pattern here, so I could settle my emotions and balance things out. And that just got better and better and better. Yeah. And I did a lot of family healing through that.
I think that's the big one, isn't it? And Trace, I know that that's been your specialty throughout your life as well, with how you've grown up and what you've had to go through. So it's sort of really interesting, isn't it, that when there's a lot of family issues, I suppose, that we've decided or chosen to come into as a soul, that it can really trigger some things for us on so many levels.
Yeah.
So but and Jan, I remember actually when you said, oh my goodness, I can see this for the first time, I get this.
Yeah.
I was going, hallelujah.
I know, Marie's been telling me forever.
Just nothing.
And you don't know what you don't know.
And until someone's really ready, and it's how it's put to you, and it's got to be something clicks. And I think, Tracy, this is for you as well. It's like how you get something, and you know this now so well that this is why you can help people, because you've been there. So, and this is the big part of it, isn't it? So, so Trace, can we just chat a little bit about what you've been through
Sure.
Your health stuff that you went through?
First of all, I just want to congratulate you. Well done, girl.
Thank
because that's the first time you've shared that. I've never heard you say that happened for you on Christmas Day.
Oh, no, I didn't.
that's
I wasn't
just-
going to. I saw the gift in it straight away.
Yeah,
So
it was
like,
like,
wow, you know, if this wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have got to this point. Yeah.
And I just want to congratulate you for actually taking action and really looking at that, because that's where it stops for a lot of people. It's like, no, there's nothing wrong with me. No, I'm all right. No, I've got it sorted. I've got this, you know, that type of thing. And then you said you received the gift of that, and that's magic right there. And from my point of view, it's just hearing your story in its entirety. It's I can relate to many things, but there's a lot of things that I don't relate to because I didn't get that far with me, which is a blessing.
It is a blessing.
A blessing. Yeah. But I know why it didn't get that far with me, because of what you just said, that realisation that you had on Christmas Day, and me obviously making comments. I can't remember that. I remember the conversation, the energy of the conversation, but I don't remember exactly what was discussed. So that's a beautiful thing. Now for me, my journey started about, I think we're winding about 10 years now. And I think it was before you beautiful ladies came into my life even, so this was way before that. And it was before I had any inkling of self-care or any inkling of spirituality or anything like that. I think I was lucky enough when I came to Australia, because I moved over from New Zealand about 15 years ago now. So I probably was in Australia about 4 years at that point. But go. Just like, you know, stress in the healthcare system, just working my butt off, as I have always done. And I was lucky enough to have been married up with a holistic doctor. So she's not an integrative practitioner per se, but she's based on nutrition. So she's a mainstream medical practitioner. And I came over, and when I came over, I had lots of issues with my period and lots of hormonal imbalances. And I went and saw her about that, and she instantly put me on a detox regime. It was the worst experience of my life, I'm just saying, because everyone has different. It's like you with the you know the raw food and stuff like this. Well, detoxing for me was rough, and detoxing, I have to say, is different for all people, depending on what you have to release, right? So I had a lot to release. And so anyway, I went through a pretty rough time, really well supported by my doctor. Came out of that, like, it was unbelievable. All my hormones were balanced. Everything was just, my periods went from a whole week of debilitating hemorrhaging and, you know, low iron and fatigue and all that sort of thing. You know, it was regular once a month, but that was just a week out of my life, to like 3 or 4 days, you know, normal, well, what I learnt to realise was normal, and it just cured me like you wouldn't believe. And so, I was like, this is really cool. And so I had that in the back of my mind. So I'd go to my doctor and have regular checkups, because she's really good like that. And then I got this blood test back, I think it was a couple of years on from that first wonderful experience of cleansing. And I got one of my tumour markers for breast cancer came back elevated, significantly elevated. And she wanted to send me for mammogram and all these sorts of things. And I said, look, you know, can we wait a few months, you know, give it back to me, and then we'll repeat it and see how we go. She was really good with that, because that's what you do in medicine. You don't really, we repeat tests, you know, you don't really take that first test and then, you know, run with the whole gamut. So that was a blessing. So with that information, like you, I was pretty shocked, because I thought, I'm not entertaining this. This is not going to be my life. You know, I had a young son. My son was still young at that point. I would have been mid-40s, probably early 40s at that point. Just no way. I'm not like you. I didn't want to go down that other road. And so, I went to the organic farmers market and I got my juicing going, and I loved it. Unlike you.
Doesn't that suck? You had such a hard time.
I actually loved it. And so I had my carrot juice and my ginger and my green juices and all these sorts of things. And I went on that cleansing protocol again that I had been taught by my doctor. So, because that's all I knew at the time. Yeah. But then there was something else that came up for me really, really strong. Unfortunately, my birth mother and I were separated when I was very young. So I think it was, and my memory tells me it was before I was the age of 2. And I had not connected with her at that time, and through the time that I was left with my father, and through that time with my father, until he married my stepmother at age 6, I had gone through some foster care and stuff like that. So I had a lot of stuff going on there. But I also know I had these unresolved issues with my birth mum. And I knew in my mind, okay, breast issues, nurturing, mother, that type of thing, there was a connection there. So I decided there and then that if I didn't resolve and heal the connection with my birth mother, I was headed for, the long haul with breast cancer and all those sorts of things. So I intuitively, I don't know how I knew that, but I knew that. So then I went on my journey of healing with my mum, and that's a whole nother story that we could spend another hour on, all that unfolding. But it was the most beautiful experience for everyone involved. And so to cut a long story short about that, yes, I did the health and wellness with the diet and reconnecting with my birth mum and healing that side of things. And yes, I haven't had any problem.
And so Tracy, where would you say your stress levels are up now? Because you remember you were extremely stressed about a lot of things. It was ongoing, wasn't it? So where are you at now within yourself stress-wise?
Oh, look, you would have thought that at that time with the breast cancer scare, I would have got more messages, but I didn't, or gifts, I suppose, for want of a better word. I still continued to be quite a stressy. Okay. So I didn't actually deal with that part of my being at that time. It was more about healing with my mum and just doing a bit of cleansing. And I thought, I'm sorted now, I'm sorted. And still really carried that big stress, and sense of responsibility, like when you're at work. And so I've gone on a even more significant journey since then. So, yeah.
But I think, sometimes I go, because I used to say to myself, oh, God, you're so stupid. Why did you put me in a life where it's been really tough and there's been so much to go through? And I always get the answer back, because you would have been bored stupid, and how on earth can you help people, or how can you communicate with people properly if you haven't experienced it?
Yeah.
And I went, oh yeah, you're probably right. Okay. so probably right. So, with you two, I just think you've both chosen an extremely challenging lifetimes, really, and it's just incredible that you're just sitting here now, just so beautiful, so healthy, so wise, so connected spiritually as well. So it's just showing anyone can do this. Everyone actually has the ability to self-heal, and it's okay. Whatever route people decide to take is absolutely perfect.
Yep.
But it's just beautiful to see, I guess, examples of people that have chosen to self-heal with assistance from nature, from people that are wise, that are, your research, you've done your research. And so Jane, I was just going to check back in with you. Where are you at now with everything?
So where I'm at now with everything is, did I get to the part about the second surgeon? No, I went to the second surgeon, and she was just absolutely lovely. I mentioned to her, and by this stage, by the time I got to her, which was a few months after everything elevated, but I got everything on track, and I could feel that the tumour was shrinking again.
Because by now you'd finished work, so the stress was gone.
Yeah.
You were back onto your regime, you were doing it properly, and then you'd also had a shift in that beautiful emotional, mental aspect.
Absolutely had that. Had a scan which showed a reduction in the tumour size. And although the lymph nodes were still there, and I thought, right, okay, I've had a reduction in this tumour size. I'll go and see another surgeon. Because I just wanted it out. And at that particular point in time, and when I saw this beautiful surgeon, and she said, sorry, Jane, but you can't. You have to have about 16 weeks of chemotherapy. Wow. And once it reduces down to a further thing. But one good thing was, the first surgeon told me I was a minimum stage 3. And by the time I got to her, I was downgraded from the size and everything to a 2B.
Wow. So what's the stage 3? So if people are wondering, do you know what it is? Is it an infiltration into a certain part of lymph nodes?
Stage 3's infiltration into lymph nodes, and a particular amount of lymph nodes, but the size as well.
Right.
And you know, they called it metastatic cancer because it's travelled to the lymph nodes.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure stage 4, don't quote me on this, is when it's gone into different areas.
So you
of
have
your
secondaries
body.
within the body from the primary.
Exactly, yeah, from the
okay,
primary. Yeah,
and then
that's right.
so now you've been downgraded to a.
With her, I was downgraded to a 2B.
So that was back then.
Back then, yeah. I think that was January, February. And
that's
but
5 months
she
ago.
said you've got to have the treatment before we can take it out, and plus I've got to take your lymph nodes, because the lymph nodes had travelled to even to my collarbone, which is what the one that was stressing her out. And I was like, well, that's not going to happen. So let's throw that all away. I'll just forget about these surgeons, because I'm not having these things removed, because they're so, what I've learnt in my research, after my husband researching these things for about 6 months, I took over my care at that stage, because I was a lot more well balanced within myself, and I was at acceptance stage of grief at that time. And once I accepted it, I took over my care and my research. And one of the things was shown to me clearly through many people going through the process, and a very good doctor, oncologist doctor that I follow in the United States, called Dr. Lodi, Thomas Lodi. And he explains it beautifully, and it's just like, do not touch your lymph nodes. They are doing their job of clearing the toxins that are coming through. So,
So your personal choice was to actually
Absolutely.
to do that. So of course we're not giving any medical advice here. This is all just
Absolutely.
completely
It's not,
personal.
Honestly, for everyone listening, do what you feel is right for you.
Yeah.
It's just, this is my story of what is right for me.
Yeah.
So, and the people that I follow in this, doctors and other people within the system that understand oncology on a natural area, like what I speak about is what I've learnt through these people.
So you've got that beautiful support group there as well.
Yep, exactly. And I also, but the miracle thing that happened was when I was having, before I started working for this integrated doctor, I was having an IBC protocol of 10 intravenous high dose 6,000 milligram
Of vitamin C.
Yeah.
Right.
And there was another patient, another cancer patient in there, and he mentioned to me, he said, look this up, there is a pre-purpose, is it called pre-purpose drugs?
I'm not quite sure.
Repurpose,
Okay.
that's what it is. Repurpose medication, and this is the site, go onto it, and that was the medication that stops the growth of cancer stem cells.
Wow.
And cancer, and they've just had so many real actual studies done on this and whatever. So I joined this Facebook group. At the time it had 32,000 cancer patients on it, and which is now today up to 40,000. So within the year it's an extra 8,000. 90% of the cancer patients on here have either had chemotherapy, surgeries, radiotherapy, been in remission, and within 2 years it's come back in everywhere else in their bodies, and they don't want to go back to those treatments again because it hasn't worked. All these patients have come on here because they have been declared stage 4, and
So that's like palliative, almost getting into
care.
palliative care,
Yeah,
which is
palliative
end of
care.
life type sort of
End of life
stages, which
stages.
is So
And-
so it sounds really synchronistic that you met this person and then they got you onto this
Absolutely.
this group. And that was what you were meant to hear. And
Absolutely.
you know, and I know that's something I know about you is that you always intuitively go, I know I'll get guided to where I need to go next.
Absolutely.
And it's been like that, hasn't it?
all the way through. I just ask my higher self. I have a really good relationship with her, and I just sort of say, show me the way. And but I pick up on things really quickly, so I can see that straight away. So I'm an onto it person. Let's get onto this and get this done. And there's a very small percentage of people in there who are just full on natural, and they're they're curing their cancers. They haven't used to things. So that's part of my group that I sort of relate to, and all the rest of them have come on for these repurposed medication to stop. And then it's great because I can actually hear from real people who are using these, and plus supplements like, you know, the earth's and now nature's medicine that they're using now and combining into it, and listening to their stories, and every week listening to that they've got their scans back and they've had a little bit of improvement, and you know how joyous it is for them to go through to see these things happening when they've been told there's nothing more we can do.
Yeah.
And because there's no joke about it, even if you go down this road, there's 3 aspects that you must follow to a T, and one is diet.
Yep.
What we put in our body, and it has to be just so pure, and it can't be 3-month detox, 6 months detox. You know, you're looking at a minimum 2 years of being on.
Wow, that's
this.
a big commitment, isn't it?
Massive commitment. You know, forget about having a drink with your mates and you know, getting with the girls and having a couple of bottles of champagne and then going out and having a beautiful meal, or you know, they're just finished for you. So you have to get your head around that. And then you've got the next stage was our mind, which I healed through that wonderful occasion that happened to bring me to that point to find the right person. So it was such a blessing, and you came in to gift me with that, Trace. And then it came to spiritual, and as Maree will know, as soon as I got diagnosed with cancer, I just hated God with a passion. It was like, I was like, I couldn't even say the name.
No.
It's only newly come into me to even say the name. Yeah. So I always lived a beautiful spiritual life within myself, lived within integrity, you know, showed, you know, always treated people with the love that I knew I had for whatever capacity that was. And I thought, how the hell can this happen to me?
Yeah.
So I played the poor me game with spirit for quite a while with that one.
But at the end of the day, though, I think that's fine. We're human, you know, and it's finding that new balance. It's okay to be really angry or pissed off. It's okay, isn't it, to, like you say, go through grief.
Yeah.
And if we don't feel those feelings, and if we do suppress them, and everything's fine, the rainbows, unicorns. No, you've got to feel and express it and let it out and own it. And
Absolutely.
I think this is, and in society, I think this is where it's suppressed a lot. So it's,
absolutely.
it's like,
So I turned to Maree a couple of weeks ago, and after she'd been through my whole, don't say higher self, don't say this, don't, like this tantrum that I was throwing for the last 6 months.
It was pretty funny.
It's like, don't say the word God.
I know.
Anyway,
So I had to
every
change.
time she had to change the
I had
words.
to change my whole speak up, and I'm going, okay, a divine essence, and I was just going, what's the next
And it
one?
was hilarious because I could see her thinking, oh, for God's sakes, Jane, but you were so graceful, so graceful. She turned around and she'd go, God, or if you want to call it divine essence or whatever bullshit I was coming up with at that time.
It was pretty funny.
It was so funny. So a few weeks ago, I had a bit of a relapse, and because I've always had, I hope this isn't too gross speaking about this, but I've always had massive issues with chronic constipation. Chronic to a point.
But I think
where,
this is another massive problem in our society, is that people, you know, you need to be passing food and everything through you so that it's not collecting within the bowel. And a lot of people don't know this, and they might. I've had friends that have said, "Oh no, I go once a week," and I'm just going, "You what?" So, and they don't realise there's toxins that are getting reabsorbed back into our body, and our liver has to clear it, and all of these. They have to be cleared somehow.
Yeah.
So that's a really big aspect of health.
Oh.
And as a nurse, for me, I used to ask people that every day. You had your bowels open today? You know, it became second nature. So exactly, it's massive.
Oh, it's
problem.
just like, I mean, you'd probably relate to this as well, Trace, but I just couldn't get over the fact that I had no idea about this. And it wasn't actually, it was another blessing that was in that period of time that I was working at this integrative centre. I believe that I was sent there to learn. It was just at the last week, 2 weeks prior to finishing up there, they sent me to do a colonic course, which was 10 days of colonics. Wow. And so that I understood the process for the business. And I walked out of there and I just thought, this is what's going to save my life.
Wow.
This is what's going to
So you had a real aha moment.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
What our digestive tract did, what our system does. I had no idea about our
most
bodies.
Most people don't.
Yeah, no idea at all. And then I started to practice cleaning this, because the medication, the supplements that I'm on are constantly killing the cancer cells, but the cancer cells can't. The dead cells can't get out. Yeah. So they're then becoming a problem, as worse than the cancer itself, from the research that I've been doing, and that it's sitting there in my body becoming more and more toxic. And while my body's trying to fight this, my liver started to get really painful. And in the period of time, every 3 months I get my bloods checked, and my liver count is constantly going up and up and up. And I just thought, what the hell am I going to do now? It's like, God, how do I get this out? I'm doing everything. I'm doing lymphatic drainage and all that. And then I was listening to Dr. Lodi one day, and he spoke about water fasting. So I thought, right, I'm water fasting for 3 days. So I did a 3-day water fast. That's all I could do. And straight after that, I changed some of the enemas that I was doing, because it's very full-on coffee enemas through to clear out the toxins out of your liver.
You've got a protocol for all of this, haven't you?
So everything.
You need.
I actually see a naturopath in the United States.
Wow.
Who is a moderator of this particular cancer site that I'm on, and she has the protocol. And plus, I went and got trained to do my own enemas privately. With a person who just trains you to do your own enemas.
Fantastic.
So everything, I wasn't guessing anything. I was making sure that I had the correct things in place. And then I remember what my teacher taught me at the colonic, and she said getting the water through your system. Colonics isn't about evacuating, it's actually about hydrating your
bowel,
your intestines, all that sort of stuff. And it's the best form of hydration, better than bringing it in orally. And I went, bingo, that thought came. I thought, thank you. And I changed the enemas for a couple of weeks to just water. And then I went to a doctor, got more bloods done, plus I got all my liver, gallbladder, everything in my abdomen scanned as well. My bloods, the levels of my liver went down from 165 to 60.
That's huge, just in that time frame.
Yep.
Wow.
And then my organs were all clear. And I was like, yes.
Well done.
That must have felt so reassuring to know that you were on track, that you'd done the changes that you needed, and
it was amazing.
And what was going on meantime, like with your, your lymph
lymph nodes started to go down straight after I cleared that with the water, the hydration, and obviously I've been able to clear a lot of toxins out, and then I noticed the lymph nodes, like I always feel into them, and I was like, wow, this is really reduced. But one of the things that I noticed, Maree, was I thought, okay, I really need to, I could start hearing little thing in my head going, I really need to start looking at the spiritual aspect. I can't heal this just like this, because I was sick of it. I was sick of the routine. I was sick of every day. The self-care goes on for hours and hours, and it was just like, it was like a job.
Yeah. And I've watched you do it, and I just go,
I thought, this is just like a job, and I'm not enjoying this, It's like
juicing all over again.
There's got to be more to this, and I thought, okay, well, I've completely switched off from my spiritual, thing, but I noticed that what taught me that was when I was reading all these beautiful people, all their stories, and when everyone responds, because it's such a incredible community of support in the group, and everyone always sent prayers.
Yeah.
And they always spoke about God. And I thought, how's the irony here?
Here's you going, no, I hate God. God, you don't exist, or
And
whatever.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to, hand it over. And I went to Maree because, if anyone can shift this out of me, it's going to be Maree. And we had a beautiful session together. And Maree, you're just an incredible healer, because I walked out of there. Not only did I feel fantastic, but within a few days, I had completely shifted how I felt about it, which is what I needed. I didn't need to feel great at that moment. I needed to change that. That feeling had to go from me. And I went, and I could now say the word God. And then I started to pray to God.
That's
and
so
I
beautiful.
thought, okay, now I have to hand this over,
Yeah.
because it's too hard to keep doing this. And I have to, not just have faith in myself, but I have to hand over and say, God, help me.
And that's really, when you've gone from really not liking too much what God did to now having to go, well, holy crap, I've got to actually trust you fully enough. My faith, I'm choosing to do
and
this.
I couldn't have
That's massive,
got
Jane.
there without the healing you gave me, because it was so strong in me, the anger that I had, that you just completely shifted that for me. And I knew you would, because you're so damn good at doing this, and you're so amazing at, I've managed to get it out of my physical body, but I knew I had it stuck in my etheric body. And I always do. Maree always comes to the rescue for me once I get it out of here and into the etheric, and then it's just like, Maree, you got to help me now. You've got to get, and that got me thinking, because Tracy, you were saying this as well, that disease starts in our etheric body.
Oh, well, thank you, Jane. Yeah, and it's always, I just love working with this high frequency and technology. And I'm literally a conduit, because I communicate in with your God self. I can say it. You're with your beautiful higher self, your divine presence, whatever it is, your creator. And whatever needs to be orchestrated through will come through, and it's all done through divination. However, yes, the etheric is huge, and I'm always reminding people, clear your etheric, clear your energy body, run some white light, whatever it is that works for you, and I've put lots of little meditations like that up on Magic Maree for people, where they're simple, easy, but they keep you clear. So I first really noticed about the etheric energy. I mean, even as a child, I could see baby souls floating in and out of pregnant women's tummies, and occasionally did a faux pas by, when I was about 9, going up to a lady who was 40 something, saying, "Oh, Mrs. Such and Such, have you got a baby in your tummy?" And she was looking at me going, "No," and I was like, "She has, but okay." And then a few weeks later, once I think things were safer, she sort of told everyone that she was pregnant. I mean, I knew that because I could see the energy, and that was my gift, even as a child. So what I sort of started to notice is, if I was sort of, talking with someone or helping someone, I might notice something and I'd go, there's something going on in their energy field near their left knee. And I'd say to them, have you got a sore left knee? And they'd go, no. And I go, well, just be careful, because you might do. And then sure enough, later, within 48 hours, they'd go, oh my God, my left knee got really sore and inflamed. And I was going, yeah, it was in your energy, in your etheric. So the etheric is basically our energetic field, our electromagnetic field. And there's different layers within that. But there's often a distortion within that then can come through, and it can come through from the physical through emotional. So we've got an emotional layer in that energetic body as well, and that can be activated and get suppressed. Literally, it's like I can see it often as a little, it's just like a little brick wall or something's in there. It's like a blob, and it's just not flowing and smooth. So that's just part of it. Is when we keep our etheric clear, then we can often help to keep our physical body clear. But as Tracy knows, there's so many realms, isn't there, within the physical as well, that we sort of need to be mindful of. And it's just, and we weren't taught all this at school, were we? We weren't taught all of this. And so, look at the journey that we've all had to go on to actually understand our own beautiful spiritual physical being, because we're amazing, incredibly powerful spiritual beings in this physical suit. And it's understanding that the energetic aspect is much more powerful even than the physical.
And this is where the future of medicine's going, isn't it? It's going to be more energy medicine, because we're starting to talk more about this, and that's not in mainstream at all. We talk about holistic medicine, you know, emotional, spiritual, all these type of things, but the spiritual is seen to be how we all see it, not what you're talking about. No. And that's a very important part of it, and they do believe that as we move with more real holistic medicine, that the medicine of energy will
absolutely
rule, probably, as far as prevention is concerned.
And consciousness, as people's consciousness expands, which it's doing. I mean, that's what this has all been about over the last few years.
Yeah.
It's really about expanding our consciousness and letting go, which is often really hard to do because of some of the indoctrinations that we've been through. So for me, I'm always checking my therapy. Not always, but I'm just going, okay, I might send some white light through today, or where am I at?
And you don't get sick, hey?
I stay very well. I'm
Well,
very blessed.
you never get sick.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had flus in my life, obviously, and I've had this and that, but...
Not since I've known you.
No, I know. It was, and I did again, I did the meditation where you bring the cell out, and I bring the cell out of my body. I ask, where does it need to come from, out of my, my being, and then I talk with it and send white light to it and love to it and tell it, and put it back in.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do that.
Yeah.
And
you're an incredible proof. I always say this too. It's just like, how the hell can you get away with everything and be so healthy all the time? And it's like I always like to look at the whites of their eyes. It's my thing, and it's like every time I look at Maree, and I'm like, check out, they're just glowing with health, and it's like, oh
the
my
energy work.
God, it's just, it's
yeah,
incredible.
I feel it's the energy work. I really do. And so like combining something like with what Trace does with your beautiful aspect, and it's education, isn't it? It's helping people to know and to understand and remember who they are and how they can actually then be more aware and more astute about what's going on within their whole being, not just their physicality, but the energy aspect too.
And Trace, with saying that, it's like one of the things I managed to do, because I've been doing a lot of self-reflecting and going back to prior cancer and maybe about 6-7 years ago, when my body started to really break down in many places. I have a back operation and all sorts of things, but then I've always been, because of being in the medical industry, I've always made sure, I've always had lots of tests and bloods and whatever, and every time they'd come back, my doctor would say, your adrenal levels are too high, your cortisol, you've got to reduce your stress. And then I went to a hormone doctor prior to all of this as well, and she was just looking at my hormones. She's like, your stress levels are just too high, your adrenals are too high, your cortisol. And when I look back now, for me, those stress levels seem so normal to be in. And it's just like, well, I'm just working, and that's what happens when you're managing a place and doctors and nurses and whatever. But now I can look back and go, wow, that was the worst thing that I could have done to myself and my physical body to break it down with stress like that. Yeah, because the research that I did was what the stress activates within the physical body is unbelievable. Of massive. How it. So you've got your business dealing with these situations for the healthcare workers, haven't you?
Yeah, I do.
Coming up.
There's so much here.
There is so much
that we can look at.
We haven't
and
even touched the surface.
No, exactly. So I think maybe we'll leave it there for our beautiful couch chat for today.
Thank you.
And we'll return. I really think it's really important that people start to have a different expression. I mean, it's because for the first time ever in mainstream media, they finally said, we have a cancer cure. So I'd love to talk about that again the next time as well. First time I've ever seen it come out in actual mainstream.
Wow.
So, But thank you so much, you guys, for joining and sharing, and your vulnerability and your courage and your dedication. So, Jane, for you to bring yourself back into a state of health through every single plane.
Thank you.
And Tracy, thank you as well, because, similar journeys are not easy when you're being that vulnerable and open, and then to be able to turn it around into something that you're actually working with
Yeah.
others. So it's beautiful. So thank you, beautiful Jane and beautiful Tracy.
Thank you, Maree.
And we will talk again really soon.